The posters went up in kindergarten. It was like a buzz around the room. What's that secret, Miss Mitchell? You need to tell us the secret. We need to know. And so every day they were begging for more secrets. We did the letter runs and the Better Alphabet song in there. They went crazy over that. I had a little girl in kinder, a quick success story, who didn't always even know where she was going to be staying. We couldn't ever get a hold of mom, so she has a history, a story. And so she didn't have a lot of support, in other words. She knew 0 letters, not even letters of her name. And then we introduced secret stories, and she left knowing every one of them just off the top of her head when she left kinder. We didn't even start the secret stories until after that reading conference at the end of November. Then we had Thanksgiving break, we had Christmas break, teacher was gone on maternity leave. So secret stories was the thing that she had to latch onto, the thing that was making her successful. And those students who might have known a couple letters at the beginning left as readers because they could incorporate those secret stories. My little guy, Elijah, he was in that class, and he tugs on my arm all the time. Mommy, there's a secret in that word. There's a secret in that word. My second grader, who they hadn't quite started that, and he can read any word you put in front of him, but he was jealous that he didn't know the secrets. And so it's contagious. A first grade success story, just quickly, was a little girl who had been a foster, was adopted. She had her own story, a low start. We couldn't even get her through the STAR test at the beginning because she couldn't get through the practice questions. When we gave her the secret stories, and I worked with them in small group, she excelled. We moved several kids in different reading groups up for their levels quickly. But this little girl in particular, when at the end of the year awards, her teacher, Miss Gibson, with tears, gave her the award for the highest percentage of correct answers on the accelerated reader questions because she could now read and the code wasn't in her way. She took those secrets, she ran with it, she excelled to in the top reading group, and we could have put her up against any of those top readers, couldn't we, in your class. And she and I were both crying when this little girl got the highest percentage correct on those accelerated reader questions. And she did, sometimes we make those kids read them and read the book and read the book and read the book. She could read the book, take the test, because nothing was in her way anymore. She could understand the story now because she could get through that code easily. And in math, they have to read in math, and so they have the word directions and questions and oval and round, words that they maybe couldn't unlock any other way. Danielle breezed right through them. She taught the rest of the kids, how to get through there. She volunteered. She wasn't afraid anymore to share out and be brave because the code was no longer in her way. That's just one success story from each grade level. But we also started in second, but it wasn't a part of my normal schedule, and so we didn't get there quite yet. But those guys even came along and were begging to know the secrets. And so you'll hear a lot more today, but I just wanted you to hear a little bit about right here where we've used it. Our kids, they all have a history. So sometimes when you hear about something new, you think, well, my kids can't do that. They don't know what my kids go through. We've had fosters, and I don't think she was technically homeless, but she was always passed around. And so we've had students from all walks who take this and just pass up the ones who have support. And so it's been incredible. So keep an open mind and get excited because it's amazing. I did letter assessments and kept track of, I told you she knew none and left knowing them all, but in the middle, I would say, point to the letter Y and say, what is this letter? And she was like, I don't know. I know when it's at the beginning, it says yes, ma'am, because that's what I taught my kids. Yes, ma'am. When it's the line leader, because when you're at the front of the line, you have to do what your teacher says or else you get fired from your job. These are Katie's stories, not mine, but so she says, I know when it's at the beginning, it says yeah, and I know when it's at the end, it can say E or I or E, but I don't know what that letter is. She didn't know the name of the letter, could not tell me, but she could tell me the stories. And so she left later with ownership of that. But even when they know the stories, even though they're not ready to tell you that is an actual Y, if they know the sounds that's leading up to it, they don't need that yet. They
Yeah,
use
and
that
I think,
connection.
and that was because you had come to the reading conference in
Yes.
October, and so then so she still didn't have all of her individual letter sounds. This was before Christmas, I think, when you did
Yes.
that assessment. So what I really thought was neat about that was that she didn't maybe know an L, but she knew all 3 sounds of Y. And that's a second grade skill. And our teacher radar would never tell us that we should be working on teaching 3 sounds of Y with a little girl who 2 weeks before maybe didn't know any letters and now maybe knows half. You would be worlds away from getting to 3 positional sounds of Y. But you all didn't teach it. She just picked it up when you were tossing it out to someone else for another purpose, maybe a whole group reading, or she just was along for the ride. And that's where we're going to talk about
She talked
the
about the
ease.
students licking their shoes or, playing with the carpet. She was one of the ones. She was turned around backwards or flipping over. She was busy and everything else. But when I tell those stories, it's a story, or they'll want to know the secret. I'm like, okay, well, you have to, you make it really big, and then they lean in. And then they see a new poster come up, or they notice a new one for the first time, and they beg for them. And it makes a huge difference. At that point, when I assessed her, she was at 14 sounds. And she didn't know, that's all the letters she knew. When I say, what's the letter name? Was even less than the 14. I can't remember what she knew. 14 sounds only, and even fewer letter names. But she could tell me all 3 sounds of Y. That's a second grade skill, and it's a hard one. Where's Miss Mila? So to know which it says E or I at the end of the word instead of Y all of a sudden. But she knew all 3 sounds. She just couldn't tell me it was a Y. So it's powerful.